everybody. I'd like to call to order Beaver Dam Lake Protection and Rehabilitation District monthly meeting, September 13th, 2023. We're trying to keep to a 60-minute time slot, so we're going to try our best. Tonight's meeting is an open meeting in accordance with New York State Public Open Meetings Law. We are live in our community building and live on Zoom. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the Orange County DPW website and the BDL YouTube account. This happens to also be the very first time we've used this technology. So this is the OWL, and it's going to be a more professional product, I would say. Just keep in mind, anybody that's in the community building, it seems to be that anybody speaks, the OWL is going to find you, and you'll probably see yourself up on the screen. So sorry, everybody at home, just for explaining all that. All right, let's go. So quorum, to make quorum right now in the building, we do not have Walter Bloss, who is absent. I'm sitting in for him. I'm Christopher Dunn, the vice chair. Walter is the chair. Larry Weinberg, present. And there it goes. It went to him. Fred Woodman here. Kevin Boyle will be joining soon, based using Zoom. Jason Younes here. And Diana Smith is also here via Zoom.
Here.
Of course, we have board support, Erica Dahl. All right, can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? We'll move. Second, here. And all in favor? Aye. Part number 4, administrative. The last board meeting was held July 12th. There was no August meeting held. Typically, that is the case. BDL Advisory Board Bylaws, 1991, notice about meetings, just to clarify. Section 3, the advisory board shall meet at least 3 times each year and may meet more often as the advisory board deems appropriate. That would mean an organizational meeting in January, a budget meeting in the spring, budget planning meeting, sorry, and a budget information meeting, typically a little bit later. Originally, when these bylaws were written, to be honest, it was meant to be in the late summer. And as we've spoken in past meetings, looking at the bylaws, based on when DPW would like our budgets to be in, we probably need to get this officially changed. But regardless, those are the 3 meetings that we have to have. Moving on to safety. As many residents have probably noticed, the beach is closed. We had a really successful beach summer. Little hiccups in the middle that happens with weather and blooms, but the beach is closed for the summer season. Residents are reminded that no swimming whatsoever is permitted when a lifeguard is not present. Furthermore, swimming from any of the other 7 reserves is also prohibited per local law 8. The lake itself does not close when the beach does. If the beach is ever closed for suspected algal bloom, it is advised that those who do not plan to swim do so from their private lake fronts with the watchful eye and understanding that cyanobacteria is possible. Okay. Once again, just note about safety. This is something that I happen to witness. September 5th, actually, I'll go to September 6th. Approximately 1 p.m., at least 2 adults, 2 children were witnessed using the beach. This was the day or 2. What day did we close? We closed on Labor Day, right?
Yes,
And that was the 4th?
the 4th was Labor Day.
That's 4th. So on the 6th, there were 2 adults and 2 children. The children were in the water and the adults were on the beach. They certainly went past a sign that said beach was closed. It's now been made much more apparent that the beach is closed, but just to make it official. Now, this is something I just wanted to mention, and I'm going to be honest, I debated about adding this in. And this is why it's in the safety part. The day before that, driving by, I did witness an unstickered car backed into a parking space at Reserve 4. Now, being that they backed in, that's what got me to pay attention. With all 4 doors open, moments later, I returned to witness an adult, Caucasian female, urinating next to the car. This was about 4 p.m. In the upper parking lot along Shore Drive. The apparent embarrassment caused this woman to then quickly leave before I could return for, well, a third time. So, not that I think, I don't know if we want to be good stewards of our reserves. I would think that this is a person that is not a resident. So we'll leave it at that, but I just wanted to kind of document that. So it kind of brings me to just something I'd like this to discuss here right now, discussion topic. Something maybe called, this is kind of the working title, Board Resident Community Reserve Watch. Now, this is not a neighborhood watch. This is not meant to be highly organized. This is just my idea. So I'm just looking for feedback from the board. My initial idea would just be this. A bi-monthly or seasonal schedule created by the board or its designee. So this could be a resident as well, does not need to be the board. And honestly, the more that residents do, the better, because we're residents ourselves and we're just volunteers, basically. To assign residents or board members observation times on our 8 reserves. The purpose is to increase a feeling of ownership through stewardship. This is not intended to be labor intensive and is not intended to replace the normal duties performed by Tom Lark, our DPW employee. So if I could just bring to the to the board.
I think more eyes are better than less eyes, and we've seen a recent spike in unsavory activity. And I think that if we enlist the help of the local community as well as mobilize the forces that we already have as a board, we can only benefit from that. So I'm all for it. Certainly, I'm happy to pitch in. I think it's very relevant for people to know that if you're a resident here and you see something, you should say something.
Right.
That's the way to go.
What exactly is going to be the responsibility?
So, and that's what this quick, short discussion is, and this is not meant to be wrapped up tonight. There's board members that are not here, and we certainly want to include them in on it. It's just an idea because it's something that I know we've discussed in the past, and it's been more of a formal, like, security guard, cameras, and those ideas are mentioned all the time, and there's reasons why we haven't come to that decision to do that. I'm just kind of thinking around the idea of it to be more of a, you go to one of the reserves, sign time, go hang out, read a book, literally just show a presence. I see one of the reserves from my back porch, and it happens to be 8. And that's the one that has a lot of traffic, just like 2 on Shore Drive. And I think the premise is just go there, maybe, let's say if your time slot is 11 o'clock, and it could certainly change. If you can't make it, you can't make it, but it's meant to be sort of casual, and you go and hang out for an hour or something. Like I said, read a book, people pull in, you see anything that's untoward or against the law. That's when you call the police, because we've discussed this. I mean, Jason, what do you think? I mean,
yeah, it sounds like a neighborhood watch to me, so.
right. But reserves only, right? Because one of the things that we just want to point out to the residents is that our function is for the reserves and the reserve properties and the county properties, not the streets themselves, ever.
Now, the issue near and dear to my heart is unstickered cars coming into the reserves. You did mention in your summary that you were not expected to approach these people.
Right.
This is for further discussion. This is
Sure.
not going to be
This is
resolved
just a
tonight.
scoping session.
Yeah, and just, I'm concerned about calling the police every time we see a car with no sticker or something like that. I'm not against this. I think it's a great idea. I'm just trying to iron out the nuances of the whole thing.
Yeah,
I think more visibility that we have, and the more that people who are trespassing notice that there are eyes on the reserves and they do have the potential to be called in. I'm not saying that we're going to be ringing a phone every hour, but hopefully over time there'll be enough of a deterrent that people will know that it's just not free reign.
It's worth a shot. Let's put it that way.
So I guess I put forth at this time is, at the moment, I mean, maybe we can come back to this again. I just wanted to get this little bit of a discussion on record. But is there anybody willing to maybe at least delve into it deeper, and maybe start a schedule or that, or, because like I said, we need to discuss it more,
Sure.
I would think.
Yeah, I think we should discuss this more to see exactly line out what is gonna be responsibilities.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea, because I'm so close to reserve too.
sure.
That, you know, for me to go down there for a while and just sit there, but it may stop some of the problems we have down there during, when somebody is there, like for instance, the youths racing around with their
Dirt
bikes, dirt bikes and stuff. But, yeah, that's, now, are we going to expect people to go from, reserve to reserve or to volunteer for a specific reserve at a specific time? We don't know.
All
at
to
this
be
point.
determined.
Yeah, all to be determined and exactly, and all of the above, so.
I would suggest that the board put together an email and canvass the rest of the community and see who is willing to participate in this, so we could see what kind of group size that we could divvy up.
So do we feel that we wanna start that canvas, or do
I
we,
would start it.
do we wanna begin, or do we wanna just more discussion?
We can
have the-
discuss, but I think that is a road to the the pathway to making it happen. So we should discuss further and then utilize the email.
Okay, is there a board member here that would like to take that up at the moment? Don't feel obligated, I'm just,
Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy to, do what I can as far as getting the word out there. And once we have the discussion.
I'll work with you if it'll help.
Drafting an email should be.
yeah, kind of just
Just to
to,
gauge interest, because if we come up with a plan and then nobody's interested in doing it,
Right.
then the point is mute.
Yeah,
all right, so noted.
Draft an email and canvass the residents.
Okay, moving along, point 5, general community concerns. Larry
Yes.
had wanted to speak briefly about feral cats.
Okay, hey, obviously, we all love animals and, certainly, I'm somebody who loves animals very much as well. We do have some issues with, feral cats in the area. And, it seems to be that a lot of the kind people out there believe they might be helping the situation by feeding or, helping these animals to survive. Where you may be setting them up for a little bit of a wintertime blues. Trap, neuter, and release, those kinds of things. I think we'd be a lot better off if we're not feeding and not encouraging and promoting feral cat activity, where they're just breeding constantly. Over the last year and a half, I've actually adopted 4 kittens. So I'm at my max right now, but we have a lot of kittens running around. Unfortunately, there are injuries on the roadways. There are other things that happen when you take these matters into your own hands. So please refrain or try not to be part of the problem. If you see that you have an issue with feral cats living around and you have the opportunity, to either call your local ASPCA, or even to talk to the town animal control folks, and maybe they can come out, capture these guys and help to cut down the population from exploding. We don't want these cats out there freezing. We don't want these cats out there getting run over in the road.
Yeah, it's a bit of a thing. I've myself have brought, we've had to discard of a few that had perished, and one I had to bring to be put down that was in quite a state last summer. Okay, so board membership and reorganization. So anybody that came to the show the other night, Larry had said something to the audience, and we're gonna kind of bring that back to the forefront, that there's gonna be a board election, of course. There's always a board election every December on the second Tuesday. Residents are urged to consider running to help maintain the community. By design, approximately 1/3 of the board membership is intended to expire each year. probably was built in from the start to be just to keep the turnover and lack of, stagnation of board members. So, and keep everybody's, will and intent strong. So that being said, just want to put it out there that you're looking at just another resident that even 2 years ago, I was just at home on Zoom, taking part of meetings. And, everybody here at this table and everybody that served on the board since the inception of the board of Beaver Dam Lake has all left their mark, and you too can do that as well. So don't be intimidated by stepping up and helping your
Yeah,
community.
there's a little bit of planning that needs to be involved, not only on our board's end, but we also have to have candidates to run to fill empty positions. Even if you run unopposed, you still have to go out and get your signatures in your district. You have to get 20 plus. We recommend 30.
Mhm.
There's a process where you have to turn these signatures into the Department of Public Works, right? And over in Goshen. And that has to be done in a timely manner, and it's a very limited time frame. So there is gonna have to be some planning involved. So we want to find out if there are people who are really looking to dig in. There's gonna be a few seats open, and the seat that you would need to fill in your particular area, you have to live in that area. So I believe we'll have one Cornwall opening, maybe 2 New Windsor openings. Not 100% positive. So with that, there is planning. So think about it now, or if you know somebody in the community who you think would be a great asset, mention it to them. During the concert that we had outside, one very nice resident did mention the fact that they have experience with this exact thing. So we may tap her for knowledge to help us to optimize the pool. Makes sense.
Excellent. And residents will certainly get an email with the procedures. I happen to be holding a printed copy from last year, 2022, from December, basic instructions for nominating petitions. So that would be something that if you're interested in, please reach out to the board. We can help you out, direct you if you are looking to get your signatures. Okay. And I have to say, it is quite a rewarding experience. It's challenging at times, but it's rewarding. That brings us to board communications. Diana, are you on?
I am. I was tasked, I guess, previously, and I didn't fully get through it, but to review, I think the hot buttons on the email that goes out from the board, as well as the Beaver Dam website. So it's in process. I have not had the time to devote to it as I wish that I had. I will ask if there's anybody in the community that maybe there's something they can't easily access or that they would like to see if they email the board, and that's something I can look at. Because there might be stuff I'm not looking for and somebody else is and they can't find it. So I'd be interested in seeing anybody's feedback as well. And then we can address that. And I think we always drive this home that our Beaver Dam Advisory Board email is our primary means of communication. The Facebook and the message boards, or sandwich boards as we call them, are supplemental items. So if I would think if everyone's on this call that you are already getting the email, but if there's people that you know that are not on the email, again, please have them send their email so that they can be added and be getting email firsthand there.
Thank you. And being, I happen to be one of the people that has been putting signs up occasionally. There's a fresh sign just with the Beaver Dam Lake email. It's out front on Shore Drive. And if you just simply reach out to that, if you're not on that list, we will put you on that list with, once we reply to you and give you your, ask you for your basic information, you can be on that list and you will be in the know. Also from Diana, purchasing requisitions.
In the previous meeting, I think we all readdressed the budget for 2023 and items that we needed. All of those items have now been placed on purchase order, and I'd probably say 75% have been received.
including the very camera we're looking into right now.
Very
And
nice.
and I noticed it's a very quiet room because nobody wants to. get picked
Everybody's
up on
smart.
it.
Everyone's
There
smart.
might even be a window at the door for the crickets, because
Yes.
the crickets are gonna get picked up soon. We could hear them outside coming in the door.
Yeah, so to the end of Diana talking about the email and being the primary source for communication for the board. We do also use Facebook, the residents page. It's not used as our main focus. So here's the thing. If you see somebody new moving in down the street, if it's a welcome wagon, you're gonna go over, bring them a thing of cookies or say, hey, I'm your neighbor. You can just simply say, hey, or if you're interested, I'd like to get your email address so I can get you tuned in with the board and you can get involved here. That's just a recommendation.
Give them a permit application.
We can do that too.
Just to keep it all straight, I think I may have misspoken it earlier in the meeting when I had mentioned the local law 8. I intended to say the Beaver Dam Lake bylaws. So if there's anybody out there checking with a fine tooth comb, when I read section 3 about meetings, it was actually in the bylaws, which are the rules that govern us. Local law 8 governs the properties and the functions that we provide and steward and for the residents for Orange County. No one has anything to add on that. Moving to beach update from Erica.
Great, yeah, thank you. We closed the beach on Labor Day, so we were excited to be able to extend our hours to that day. We were fortunate that a lot of our lifeguards were awesome and amazing this year. We had 4 of them, and 3 of them went to college in mid-August. So we had Dylan Sullivan, who stayed with us through Labor Day, and thankfully he was able to work through the end of the summer, many hours. So we appreciate the community's patience in the changing of hours the last minute, but we just had 1 lifeguard left who was kind of manning all of those hours the last 2 weeks. So really appreciate the patience with the shifting of those hours. But we were excited to have limited blooms in the last month and really be able to keep the beach open. So thank you very much to Dylan, if you know him, and thank you to the community for a really successful beach season this year. And again, reminder, there's cameras on reserve for, so please don't be down there when the lifeguards are not present, because it does compromise our beach permit for next year. If you do know potential lifeguards for next year, or you have connections with swim teams, etc., please email bdlboard@gmail.com with those contacts and connections so that we can make sure that we send you the job descriptions as soon as they're out. We try to get them out early so we can open as early in the season as possible. So thanks for another great season.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you,
for
Erica.
Making it happen.
Yeah, and seriously, if anybody knows Dylan, like, go shake his hand, because he really did say, this is Erica said.
It was great at getting.
Just
that
graduated
much
from
phone.
Syracuse University. He's looking for a job in finance, guys.
There you
Very
go.
nice.
That's great. All right, so moving, this is gonna be wordy, so I'm gonna try to go quickly. Some of this I'm kind of rehashing Wally's portions of the board, and then it'll kind of flow into mine. So lake health and treatments, 2023 lake treatments. We had one herbicide treatment with a follow-up, so technically it was a half and a half, it was not considered to be 2 treatments. It was really 1 with a 50% and a 50%. And then 3 algicide treatments. The lake treatment budget as of the 8th of August spent was 31,100 against a budget of 44,000 with a balance available of 13,300. That was not spent. Lake water quality. So it was affected more than usual by significant rainfall and runoff into the lake. As you know, we've had a really wet summer. My weather station alone has just been going, and I think we're over 20 inches or something for the summer, where last summer we were like 0.5. So we had a record terribly dry summer, and now we have the opposite. The lake water quality affected more, like we said, by the runoff. There was trends of algal blooms immediately following rainfall, especially in mid-July. So if I could just say, when you get a heavy rainfall, you get heavy rainfalls, it washes in extra nutrients. So if we get a small rainfall, a lot of times the sponge isn't saturated, the ground isn't saturated, so the water that's flowing to the streams and through the tributaries, they may get pulled into the banks, they don't typically hit our lake completely. But once we get to that saturation point, it comes in, and anything that is at a distance of, who knows, our watershed reaches past Stewart Airport. Anything that's on the other side of 17K can eventually make it to us. And we also have Brittany Terrace right here, and we have another over by Reserve 1 that kind of flows in seasonally. It's typically a storm drain, but there is a stream that forms when it's wet, and it's wet. So we're working with 2 lake management companies. Is that air conditioner on? Does that sound, how does that sound at home? Are we hearing noise? Because the air conditioner just
Is
kicked
it
on.
the AC?
We cannot hear it at home.
Hear it.
You can hear it?
No.
No, okay, that's all right. So we have 2 companies, Pond and Lake Connection, contacted and working with us is James Gorman. James Gorman had this to say, as we are able to develop vegetation in the lake that is not invasive, the algae blooms will decrease. So if we could somehow replace the invasive species of plants that are in the water with possibly planting native plants, the native plants will start to win the battle. Part of the reason why that they have lost the battle is because, as you know, we were drawn down for 2 years, and the second year, the root systems and the seeds really took off. Because you remember the first year, it was dirt. Second year, it looked like the Serengeti. So that definitely made things take hold. Finding a balance of plants, allowing them to grow where there is no recreational use, and keeping the invasives from spreading will be the juggling act we play in the next few years. Going to our other, we have a limnologist, a freshwater biologist, AJ Reyes, working for GEI, recently hired. Speaking generally, this season has brought more rain and nutrients into BDL than in past years, which, considering the highly developed watershed and high nutrients, is unsurprising. I would also imagine that the lake will resume an internal nutrient loading that has resumed a nutrient loading that was present before the multi-year dam drawdown, feeding algae with more nutrients. So it's sort of just backing up what James said. Usually the first year of a 2, it's not as significant, basically, and I'm going to paraphrase so we can stay on time. But we having a reset to the ecosystem is basically what happened. We have basically a new lake. So the water that's in the lake now is starting to act like the water that was in the lake, say, a few years ago. But we kind of had a honeymoon phase. We really did. If anybody disagrees.
I've seen a lot of lakes around in my travels up and down the highways, Rockland, Orange. And I'll be honest with you, the condition of our lake is pretty stellar from what I've seen versus other places. I think that is a pat on the back to the folks who've really been investing their time and energies. Is it perfect? It's not. Are there areas that could be improved? Definitely. But I'm telling you, I've seen some places that just like pea soup. Legit, I mean, I wouldn't even want to be anywhere near that water. I could take a few photos and post them, but hats off to the folks who've been doing such a great job with this. I just wanted to, so I think we're in a good place. Again, I'm not the pro, but the folks who've been actively engaged with the lake management companies have really definitely made a difference for us. I'm positive.
You know, there's a big learning curve with this, and being in contact with professionals such as this. I happen to be a teacher, and it's something that I certainly enjoy. And seeing that we do have the ability to make this lake better in quality, not, you know, as much as parts of the board certainly want it to be a good community. But everything is centered around the lake, and if the lake becomes, we'll just say, you know, uninhabitable or usable, it's going to diminish all quality of life around here. So that is something, that's another reason why, if anybody here, one of our board members, Jason Eunice, got involved simply because of his love for the lake itself and the quality of it. I do want to mention that GEI, which AJ Reyes, they plan on producing a final report once all of their services are complete. There's a few more that they're going to do. We still have a few more rounds of tributary testing. I'm going to get to that in a moment. We're also going to do a bathymetry survey in November. That was mentioned maybe, I think, back in maybe the May or June meeting. And that that is a scanning of the depths and the shallows and the soil compositions with GPS technology, sonar technology, and it makes a three-dimensional map. And it was something that we actually hadn't had on file since 1992. So that's why the board decided that we needed it. AJ Reyes's notes from the 6th of September during our plant survey, the air temperature is 95, almost 95 degrees. The man was in a boat for 6 hours. And as he told me, it was a crispy day. Ultra poor quality today, brown in color, believed to be all algae. And I'll make a note about color of algae in a moment. No plants appear to be present below 6 feet. He expected to find plants in the 6 to 12 zone. Almost all plants found were invasive species. Native plants can be planted to help remedy the situation, as mentioned before. Now, the idea of invasive species does not mean that these are poisonous plants coming to destroy the lake. That is not what any of this is. They're simply species from somewhere else that have more of a competitive edge.
Not indigenous.
They're not from here. And if we wanted to stop a debate about it, there are a lot of non-indigenous animals that are on many continents. And some eventually take hold, and it's never going to change. As we know, the lanternfly seems to be here to stay. I don't know if anybody's seen any yet.
Not yet.
But at least around here. AJ wants to see the map, basically. I know James Gorman had done all the treatments. He wants to look at the map of the herbicide this season, and to have it at least be explained, because he would like to get together with the two and to be able to maybe find out rhyme or reason why some areas of the lake may not be growing plants where the depths go below 6 feet. We know our lake is quite shallow, but there are areas near the dam where we get to 25 and 30 feet. The areas in the northern section, as we call the North Finger, behind my house, there's one area where it gets down to 10 feet. And that's because Beaver Brook runs through it. But otherwise it's around 6 feet, 5 feet. So it's quite warm early in the year. We lose our, our healthy oxygen levels pretty quickly in the year. And that lends to algae just growing. Something that AJ personally had told me, and I'll just add to this, is that, algae itself, there's different types of algae. And if I could just jump ahead, I actually just looked this up just to give you some documentation, but there's actually different types of algae. And the algae, and I'm putting myself on the spot, is there's several types. We know that there's blue-green. So algae belongs in the kingdom Protista and are simple photosynthetic organisms based on the occurrence of pigments, so color, and food reserves. So depending on what nutrients are feeding them may determine the color. So algae are classified into different types, namely blue-green, BGA, green algae, red algae, and brown algae. Now, each one of them is going to have sort of its day in the sun as the season goes on. So let's say we see it brown for a week or two. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's brown for some pollution reason. It might just be that that is the type of algae that is flourishing at the time. I believe that we even asked about that, and it was kind of we had asked James Gorman if the herbicide had done anything to affect or treat this. And we have to understand that when we apply an herbicide or an algicide, it's affecting what it touches. It affects what it touches. So how long does it last? That it seems to be a few weeks. It was kind of the answer. We've had a lot of rain. There's a lot of rain. So how much is being maybe flushed out is yet to be studied, really. But I just wanted to mention that there are different colors of algae, and all of those algae, by the way, can still produce a cyanobacteria, which when the algae dies, blue-green especially, when it gives off its poisons, that's when it's dangerous. So when it initially grows, it's not dangerous just by its existence. It's once it begins to die, but that's pretty quickly. So you can almost assume that the poison is there pretty soon. Where are we going? Okay, so AJ also identified 2 separate waterfronts where there was no evidence of a silt sock or silt fence. on large piles of dirt. So I believe one to the north and one to the south, there were two homes that were doing some type of excavation or bringing in fill, and there are large piles of soil sitting there. He mentioned that he believed that one of them appeared to have been there for quite some time. With the rain we've had, you can assume much of it has eroded down. If there's nutrients, and there are, they would come directly into the lake. It's also gonna make portions of the lake shallower. Do we want that? No. Shallow water heats up faster, oxygen goes out, water turns completely stagnant pretty quickly. So that's something that the board is going to reach out to those residents and just double check and make sure they understand. But in the meantime, if there's anyone, board member here that would like to take up the action, otherwise, I believe I will do it, to check with New Windsor, Blooming Grove, and Cornwall for their soil erosion and runoff regulations. Some municipalities require you to have a silt fence. Some of you may just say tarp, some may say just tarp it, and some have what's called a silt sock. So it's like a burlap tube filled a lot of times with wood chips and natural substances like that to soak up and to keep everything from flowing into the lake.
If I can ask,
Please.
while doing the C-SLAP examinations, there were probably at least 2 residences that had a steep slope with nothing on it. And it was just, I know there's a lot of erosion coming out into the lake. Now, does AJ, is part of AJ's plan to, to have some kind of recommendation? Or as you say, the towns may have a requirement for this type of thing? Because I know we're getting erosion from a few of these properties.
You know, so at the moment, AJ is hired and GEI is hired right at the moment to do testing and sampling.
Right.
And we're kind of in like a phase 1. That is certainly something that we can bring to him, as we've discussed in other past board meetings. We're currently in a 1-year contract, and it's simply for testing to get like a baseline. But we want at least a 3-year or greater plan with the DPW, but it's been difficult to get it approved. And I think, Fred, that's something that we can certainly bring to him and just see
Well, I
what.
mean, it's up to the town if someone has an area where there's gonna be obvious runoff. I mean, we as a board cannot say, you've got to do this.
Correct, and that's why I think we need to at least find out what the municipality regulations are for these. Because there's some towns that don't have much for erosion. And we're a lake, so it really matters. So if
Jason,
anybody has a suggestion, otherwise,
Yes, the side, it's gonna segue into.
yeah, it's perfect,
This
actually.
anyways, but.
And Jason's gonna take this right into something else, so.
Good segue.
So it's not that there's erosion, because there is grass and it's holding it together, but grass doesn't absorb water very well. Because the roots have a very shallow, so it doesn't penetrate the ground very well. So basically, when it rains, the water just goes right over it and takes whatever fertilizer that is definitely being put on that lawn, along with it right into the lake.
The ones I had talked about have no grass, anything on it.
Those ones are definitely gonna be erosion.
Yes.
But ways around the ones with the grasses, you can change the slope, so it goes down slower,
Terracing, yeah.
which gives it more penetration into the soil. Restoring, a lot of these sloped properties have no natural vegetation. If they've ripped it all up, no cattails, there's no other plant vegetation here to catch any of that garbage and any other nutrients that is penetrating that as well. So restoring your shoreline, I know you want to be able to access some of it, so having a spot to get to the lake is perfect, fine, but having some natural vegetation, like you look at Orange Lake, there is no vegetation on their shorelines, and they have a pretty bad nutrient.
Just look at Google Earth of Orange Lake and you'll see the
Yeah.
colors every year.
And that's because they don't have their vegetation along their shoreline. So I guess, should I segue into the next one?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when meeting with AJ Reyes, when we were doing the tributary sampling, I mentioned to him that I thought it'd be a good idea to put a rain garden in at Reserve One because it has a storm drain there. And it's relatively not used, and there's already a depression in that area, so it wouldn't take too much to retrofit it into a rain garden.
So if I could jump in.
Yeah.
Please just refresh everybody exactly what part of the lake we're speaking about.
Reserve One,
Reserve one.
Okay.
115 Shore Drive,
All right, so the southeastern portion of the lake, when you first come in. you
between
come
Shore and Chestnut.
And his recommendation was,
Yes, he agreed that it was an ideal spot to put in a rain garden, which would capture any excess nutrients from the road and that storm drain, which comes out really heavy, because I think that one goes out to Jackson.
yeah,
It opens up at several spots.
yep.
But when I've seen the heavy rain come through there and it blows out of there.
So for the folks at home, if you were to Google Earth it and look at the map, the Chestnut or the Chestnut Avenue Park, the New Windsor Park. There's a bit of a wetland to the western side, and there's lots of skunk cabbage and not lot, you know, it's a muddy area. It's basically an open, so it's almost like a vernal pool. Some would call it a swamp,
It's a wetland.
but it's a wetland. It does have a flow to it, and this summer itself, there's been a flow. So, and then, as Jason said, it goes all the way back through different connections to Jackson, you know,
Yes.
and kind of also almost towards Silver Stream.
So one of the things you can notice at Reserve One, especially with the Google Maps, is there's a little peninsula that is formed from all the sediment that has built up there from all the rainstorms. Also, that area is really shallow.
Yeah.
You can probably stand through that whole little corner of that.
So what was AJ's suggestions? I know you know this, I'm seeding this. So what was the suggestion for what you want to plant there maybe, or
So it'd be-
do to the land? What would you like to do to the actual land?
So you need to make like a little bowl there to, and to slow the water coming down, rocks towards the inlet, and the water will pool in before the lake, and that would be absorbed by native plants ideally. So you can do like irises.
And better root structures than just grass. So as Jason pointed out, the root structures of grass are not really good enough to soak up, so these are.
So any excess nutrients would be filtered into the plants first, and then through the ground and the water table, like it naturally should, and then get into the lake. As well as preventing sediments, because the sediments will hopefully be captured in that bowl before it gets in the lake, and then an annual cleanup can be done with that, because there's one seasonal drain that comes by me, and I think about 5 wheelbarrows every year out of that drain.
Sure. Do you recall the date that you did the rain garden
The presentation.
presentation? What was, or what month?
Probably June, July.
Yeah,
So-
excellent presentation.
Yeah, so if you want to go back into check out the YouTube account, you can actually still see that so that it.
That was
continues.
not posted to YouTube.
Oh, no?
No.
Oh, no?
This was before we had the Zoom account, and it was
Ah.
trying to be recorded, and it died halfway through.
Well, I'm not trying
But
to
if
pick
we
on
get
his
enough
spot, but
interest, I can
Yeah.
do it again.
because we've heard Jason say many times that he would certainly present it again,
Sure.
and so we want to keep the interest up and.
Will we have access
Point
to
out.
any equipment or any resident who can potentially loan us equipment to do this
Is
instead
this-
of just hand shovels, you know?
Is there something we have to check with the county on this?
Yeah, and that's kind of where, Jason and I
Not
were
the
talking
point,
before. Yeah, because it's county property, it's county property, no one could just go dig. I believe you said you had made, but you didn't get the feedback yet, the
Yes, I put in a request to dig safe to be able to find out if there's anything in that area to be able to plot out the scale of the rain garden that it could be. Because if something there, then
Mhm.
there's nothing really to do anyways.
So basically, there's still a lot of what ifs about, not so much can we do it, it's how we go about getting it done.
Yeah.
It's not, if it was anybody's personal property, call up your friend, you dig it, you put the rocks down, and that's it. This is county property, they might be behind us, but there's certainly gonna be probably liabilities, we'll say. So I think we'll revisit this, yes?
Yes, and if some people are interested, maybe if you know of any native plants, or you can check with me. Maybe we could split some and you can have them donated to this project.
Good.
And that can save everybody some money and
Sounds excellent.
get the project done.
If I can interject one other thing, since we're talking
Sure.
about AJ and his recommendations. One of the things that we've looked into a long time ago are these floating islands. That at the major points of the tributaries coming in, I think there's two major ones coming in. If we could check with him regarding the feasibility of implementing these floating gardens,
Mhm.
because floating islands rather. But I did check with Princeton Hydro at one time, and he says, yes, it does help, but it's not a cure-all. If it can absorb some of the nutrient coming in, it will help. So maybe this is something AJ can elucidate on.
Yeah, and I'd like to make mention that AJ will be coming in to either do it Zoom, either it will be recorded and canned, so to speak, and we'll play it, or he'll come in person. So when his services and his company's services are finished in November, there will be a large write-up, and presentation, and I think that'd be probably a good time to
Sure,
ask him those questions and get that in,
be
so.
great to.
If we can just make note of that action, all right. Moving on to lake testing. So we have been testing the watershed. We began on the 24th of August. Was the first day that we did this. The next schedule at the moment, it's a very small, it's a small amount of testing done over a couple months, on September 25th. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. AJ Reyes from GEI, along with myself, and Jason Muniz, took samples and received the proper training to do so. Videos of the training have been placed. Yes?
Posted on.
All right,
YouTube.
I didn't speak too soon this time. Have been placed on YouTube. And basically what we did is we went to the 5 tributary locations. 4 yielded near identical results, because we did get the results back for E. coli only. So when I'm speaking about testing results, that is fecal coliform, right? E. coli. So we got the results back from the lab in Environmental Lab Court in Marlboro, in Ulster County on 9W. The sample was taken directly from the outflowing stream of Brittany Terrace. This was the one that gave us a spike. Mobile home community along Station Road and Rock Tavern. AJ Reyes stated, as for E. coli, usually the recreational limit is 126 MPN, which is most, I'm blanking, I'll come back to it. It's most prevalent number, I think, most, per 100 milliliters. For what we're using the data for, we are looking for excess E. coli concentrations from these streams that may indicate wastewater influence. So there really isn't one clean number to use to delineate this. The number that we got from that stream was 186. So basically what AJ's, kind of saying is that, he's saying the recreational limit is is 126. Brittany Terrace is a little bit higher than that. Their speedies permit is up to date. It's been checked, it's been foiled. But where would we be going with this? We're certainly going to check it a few more times. My personal goal is to try to check it soon after a rain to see if that is influencing it, because the location was on the other side of the runoff from Brittany Terrace along Station Road. There is a culvert pipe that runs under the road. It's quite easy access. Jason and I climbed right on down, and I think Jason took that sample and yeah, so we want to certainly go back there again. Samples are also taken this day to test for phosphorus and nitrogen content. These results will be cumulative after all other monthly samples have been collected in September, October of this year. So they're frozen. They're frozen. They're going to be sent off soon.
One question on the Brittany Terrace. I know we have it, it's right off the pond, so it's a septic pond. It's expected to be that high. But is there a further down the tributary?
Upstream from it.
Or downstream?
Well, you were upstream from before the septic area, so you can see a before and after.
Well, we're already right at the septic. We want, is the wetlands that it's going into doing the job before it's getting to us?
Exactly, same thing, yeah.
Yes.
Right, so what Jason basically signifying is that, yeah, if it's coming out on that level, is it a lot less after it, or could it be worse? Or is it such a saturated level? Like, for instance, about in 2018, there was some testing done in the area. And I don't recall it because I was not on the board at the time, but I did speak to one of our former limnologists, and they had mentioned that we had numbers at one point coming in that were in the 900s. So 900s would certainly indicate sewer leak, and that was the the opinion of that person at the time. So external municipality updates, basically just want to say, if you see some light blinking and the alarm going off at any of the pump houses, we have one on Beach Road off of Shore on the dead end. I'm pointing as if you can all tell. And that's a New Windsor pump station. Please call 845-360-6423. That may indicate that there is a backup, and if it's not tended to by the sewer company, it eventually is going to come out. And that happens around here. The other one is Cornwall over by, what's the address on that? 'Cause it's right by you.
139.
Reserve 2.
Say it again.
139, sure.
139 Shore Drive, right by Reserve 2. That's the other pump station. That's a Cornwall pump station.
Anytime we see that light on, we'll call.
See, Fred is a good steward. 845-534-2171. All right, moving on to fisheries. Speaking for Wally, because Wally has done all the legwork with this from the beginning and the inception. The contract extension is complete with Hickling's Hatchery to restock yellow perch this fall. The budget is not to exceed $7,000. They were contracted and they noted that we are on their priority list for this year. The background is that they were supposed to, that they were supposed to stock last year. They ran out of stock. And we had a holdover. We were able to keep the money from last year to pay for what's coming in this year. So yellow perch will be coming. Reserves of community property. That's something I want to just, that's kind of can get a little bit involved. So we're gonna just jump ahead for a minute since we're kind of talking about testing and such, and we're gonna jump to Fred. With CSLAP.
Oh, CSLAP.
So, I'm sorry. What did you want us to talk about?
Well,
We thought we were.
Item 8, we're talking about the DEC grant.
Okay, so the DEC grant is something that.
Again, that's in the hands of the DPW right now. I've been trying to get a hold of Mary, who was on vacation. Mary Heiferman with the DPW. Again, I tried to call her today. I left another message. I will continue to keep calling her because nothing can be done until the DPW gets the information to Vicky Wagenbaum at the DEC up in Albany.
And what's the DEC grant again? I know we.
It is the invasive species grant where it's a grant of $100,000, of which it's matching up to 52% of what we spend. So anything that we do that is chargeable involving invasive species, for instance, algicide treatments are not part of the grant, where herbicide treatments are. And in the past, we've had examinations done by Northeast Aquatics that I have put in towards it because some of that was in examination of the extent of invasive species. So anything involving invasive species, so far we've applied for $57,000 that we have spent since 2018. And we've had a couple of extensions, which ends now in July 10th, 2024. So next year's treatments will be included in that grant submissions. But right now, it's in the hands of the DPW. And I keep getting told, oh yeah, we're handling it. So I will try to keep on top of that. Jason.
Yes, would we be able to get any seeds to circle back to counteracting the invasive species plants? So.
Oh, you're saying so if we were to purchase seeds for native plants, would that
For
be?
native plants,
Because.
darts.
Let's put it this way, we could try.
Mhm.
We can't do more than be told, good shot, but no. I mean, if you don't ask, you don't get. So in fact, I sent a note recently that when AJ was here and he was talking about most of the vegetation is invasive and things like this. Can you itemize some of what you did so that we can say it's regarding invasive species? so we can put it with the grant. But the answer to your question is, if you don't ask, you don't get. So, you know, by all means, we'll give it a shot. We've got till July of next year.
Okay, so the next portion is just kind of meant to be, and I do want to try to stay as close as we can to our 60 minutes. And we're doing well. We're almost there. One of the major things that you may have noticed, if anybody's, especially the people that drive down shore, you know, we have over 800 residences in this community. So some people may know, maybe some people may not. It's been documented a bunch of times that we have established, or we have identified is the word I'm looking for, that we have a bit of a boat storage problem. Old boats that haven't been used, that are no longer they're no longer buoyant. They may not be stickered, they may not be registered. Larry's been a part of that, Jason's been a part of that, I've been a part of that, Fred's been part of that. In some form to get to the bottom, and prior board members will say, it's not just this current board, the prior board goes back, and it's been a struggle, because going back, the history is that it was once a small community, a recreational community, and it starts to get where my mom put a boat here, and I'm gonna put a boat there, and I'm entitled to do that. And it's a very nice thing to do, but there are some laws that do involve these privileges, so to speak, of being a resident here. Because if you're not a resident here, you can't just put a place a boat here, which means you would never get a sticker. So something that we've been discussing for a bit, a boat storage policy that really would be 2025. So you're going to see the amendment on the board that's out there. So it's really a boat storage policy of 24 to 25. The old stagnant leaky boats have become a nuisance. Landscapers cannot efficiently trim weeds or grass. Many of the current racks are so close to the ground, they trap leaves and other debris, such as trash. As a result, many animals dig and take refuge under boats during autumn and winter months. It's well documented that a great many boats have not moved in years. 7 unstickered, decrepit boats were discarded this past spring. And believe me, we turned over every stone to make sure that we weren't throwing out anybody's boats. And these boats really weren't boats any longer. They were scrapped. If more boats are identified and unregistered and unstickered, they too will be removed and discarded. Basically, just to highlight the initial talks, we've discussed some of these ideas just to put it out there. So this is something that we're going to discuss at the board for probably the next year. So, and we certainly want community feedback. So by no means is any board member thinking that we're just going to slap down a new policy and this is it, and you're going to take it. So the idea is it's going to be an open forum developed, but these are some of the ideas. A seasonal storage versus yearly storage. So be able to take your boat back to your home for the winter, bring it back in the spring. New stickers, of course, will be needed for the boat policy. The amount of years the stickers will be valid for, we have to decide. We have to kind of vote on that one. Is it 3 years? Is it 4 years? Is it 5? Is it 1 year? Probably not. Designated reserve year-round for storage, meaning that if for some reason you have to and you have no way to keep it at your house, we're going to have a reserve for that. It may not be the reserve you want, but it will be access, and most likely you have the ability to move it once the season begins. But an off-season storage area, using reserves 2 and 8 only as seasonal storage. That's heavily discussed. Those are the two highly profiled, have the traffic. Those are the ones that catch boats from New Jersey or wherever. We've seen them. So, and some people may slip their boat in for a couple of weeks or months and then take it away, and it goes unnoticed. No boat to remain on reserve 2 and 8 in the winter, or the off season in general. And that would give the landscapers the ample time, the grass to grow back. Also, as you know, we've started a little tiny pilot program. It hasn't really gotten to so far at the moment, but there's a canoe rack that was freshly built by a volunteer resident, that I kind of oversaw and watched him do on reserve 2. So if you've ever seen that rack, it is unfinished, but it is meant for canoes only. And the idea of that is that we can get all the canoes up, we can stack them higher so we can get greater capacity, get them off the ground and start to deconstruct some of the old racks and clean them out. Lastly, residents to be encouraged to take the boats back to their property. And another one, possibly. Go ahead, Fred, I see you.
Just quickly, one thing in regards to this, and since we're talking previously about members either of the board or residents, keeping an eye on the reserves.
Yeah.
It would be an excellent idea to monitor the boats that are being stored down there. If it does, maybe you've already done this, Larry, I don't know. If it doesn't have a sticker, it needs to be on our email list to say, look, this boat is here. Do you identify it? Do you know it's here? And just get it off if no one claims it. If it doesn't have a sticker, it has no business being there.
Can we send pictures on our board email?
Yeah, it's just gonna be sent.
Of a boat, I don't see why not, yeah. And I'll throw this into registration with the Department of Motor Vehicles is highly encouraged. So you may say Department in New York State, go to the DMV, register your boat with the whole number and bring your identification, of course, because then if it is stolen, the police can help you. If it is not registered, the police have said, we can't help you, because they're not gonna go around checking boats randomly.
No.
They need to have a whole number and they need to have a registration. The last one might be interesting, but if you think of it like a health club, board issued locks. Basically, if you want to go to a gym, maybe the idea has been discussed that it's like getting a locker. Once you get the sticker, you fill out the form, you get the sticker. We can give you a lock. Obviously, that's an expense for the community. It needs to be discussed. It may not be warranted, but we can at least discuss it. And then we would have the ability to move the boat, let's say if it was in trouble, if a tree fell down or a utility company needed to come. So there's a myriad of reasons why it would be helpful if we as the board could help you keep your boat safe and move it to a place that's better for the boat. So I think what I'm gonna do to keep things moving, I did want to read from the local law 8. And since we're gonna revisit this, it had to do with vehicles and permits and storage. I'm not gonna read them. It's gonna take more time, but I just will notice that if anybody has, and you have access to this, you can go on the DPW website, and anybody wants to read section 9.5 vehicles or section 13.1 permits, or sections 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 of storage, you will see that keeping any private property on the residences, on the Orange County reserves is a privilege and can be moved if it needs to be moved. So just want to put that out there. So if somebody wants to start checking up on that. Larry, boat permits and cleanup efforts.
Okay, very quickly.
We're gonna urge that we kind of keep it tight.
All right, so the spring, summer, all gone now. All the leaves are starting to fall already in the yard. I'm blowing my deck every day. To that end, fall cleanups. Please, let's prevent material, debris, leaves, and extra landscaping goods from going into our lake. All right, we are trying our hardest to prevent added nutrients. So if you do your own leaves or you have a landscaper, however it goes, please be sure to tell them, never put anything into the lake, never blow anything into the lake. If you see your neighbor's landscaper doing such, please address it immediately. Okay, this is only going to help us to cut down the nutrients in the lake. We're also spread the word about the parking and boat permits, please. We are constantly doing in-person events to try to encourage those and make it as easy a process as possible. Again, to that end, there's a lot of people in the community. If you know somebody who's great with the computer or very savvy, please ask them if they can volunteer to create a direct electronic response form where we can have this process automated, where you'll fill in your information, you'll send in your documents, they'll be approved, you'll get a sticker, we'll be good. And Fred and I, and we'll continue to do what we do, but it will help to expedite the process.
Thank you, Mr. Weinberg. Jason, weather station.
Weather station parts have been ordered. They should be coming soon, hopefully. One sensor needed requires Wi-Fi because it's not connecting, which should be being updated on the 22nd with faster speed.
And just for anybody that's new to it, we have a weather station here off the building and out on the beach, and that is found
You can get it on the link on the email we send out.
Right, so there's hyperlinks at the bottom of the email in blue, that's one of them.
Circling back to your permit process, I know I sent out an email to the board to
Yeah.
test out something. I think you were the only
Right.
one that tried it.
It just didn't go live for me.
Oh, so when yeah,
Yeah, I tried
I
it, but
couldn't
it
put the documents,
didn't accomplish
Yeah,
anything.
I might have had a computer issue because nothing was working, so.
the photo there was just a photo. It wasn't meant to be a form fill, it was more to be uploadable
Okay.
into a SharePoint.
Okay,
So we can revisit that another time, circling to it.
Gotcha.
we're gonna help you along, Fred. You're our guy, all right? Fred's been in charge of the permit process
Does
for
that mean I'm gonna get a pay cut?
a long.
How about people who blow leaves into the street that the wind pick up and like, I have a few neighbors who do this regularly. They shouldn't be doing that.
So, yeah, so comments from did you read that again?
Diane,
Diane wrote, how about people who blow leaves into the street and the wind blows them into the lake?
Silly question, is that viewable? So are the comments viewable to off the owl?
We'll find out.
Yeah, can anybody give us a thumbs up? Diana, are the comments
They should be able
viewable?
to see in there, but I don't know if it's being recorded.
Ah,
I will find that out tonight.
okay, all right, let's keep it going. We're almost out of here. C-Slot, Fred, Molly, Jason, board member Kevin, Captain Kevin, had the last C-Slap.
Last sample was taken, submitted, and final data will be available probably in the spring. But just to add to what you said before, very quickly, that this color, this, we call it pea soup, has been identified in every one of the C-Slap samples. So this is not a new thing. And last year, because 2 years ago was beautiful.
I was gonna ask that, so is this a bit of a new trend? or-
Last year, it was a stagnant pool. This year, we are just constantly seeing pea soup,
Right, no rain last year,
And-
lots of rain,
and
lots of
lots of
nutrients.
nutrients. but we won't see the final nutrient levels until the spring.
So if there's anybody skeptical that the rain doesn't wash things in, there you go. Community events.
all right, let's move through. We've got Music by the Lake. Our first concert was on Sunday, 9/10, September 10th. We had 32 people, including babies, attend, and our fantastic young man, G.O.B., played his French horn for 45 minutes. Fun was had by all. Restrooms are available as building access is open. The lower lot is closed, so nobody can park down in the lower lot. Next week, this Sunday coming up, we are going to have Joseph and Shira, and they will be doing 90s and 2000s alternate rock. That's going to be fantastic. Some Foo Fighters, some Fall Out Boy. Very, very excited about that. 5:15 p.m. starts your seating. Show prompts starts promptly at 6 p.m. We'll run 30 to 45 minutes. So anybody who wants to go to bed before the sun goes down, I'm sorry, that's not going to be your night. Okay, book club running every third Wednesday. This is a regularly scheduled thing. It's run by Leah Matthews, and she does select a book club readings. You have 1 month to read the book, and then the organize at about 6:45. That will be next Wednesday. So it's always the Wednesday after our board meeting. We are tossing around the possibility of a chili cook-off. Last year's chili cook-off was a big success. If there is interest, please let me know. I'll start to see and canvass the group and put some things out there on Facebook, although it's not the official form of notification. It is something that gets a lot of people stirred up. So if there's interest and there are people who want to participate, we need a minimum of 8 chili chefs. Last year we had 12. The event went very, very well. We'd love to do it again. Trunk or treat, talking with Miss Erica, and potentially we will do a trunk or treat on either the 29th of October or the 28th, okay? Trunk or treat being, we will come here to our Reserve 4 parking lot. We will have a few people hopefully volunteer to come with their cars and give out candy, kind of like a kickstart through the Halloween season. We may do the witches paddle. I'll have to be in touch with the organizer from last year. That was us going around the lake dressed as witches, and just, it was a cool little event, something very, very nice to do. So we're always looking for interesting things to go and get started. Thank you so much to Tara B for taking the initiative and getting this concert going. We're really having a great time. We're hopeful to build on it.
Excellent, said a mouthful.
Thank you.
Resident forum, first board member comments. Fred,
No, nothing additional.
we've said a lot tonight.
We're
Larry?
all good. We just, again, we were upset that the turtle sign got stolen. We don't know what happened. There was 2 turtle signs. Now there's 1 turtle sign. I know it sounds like it's really nothing, but it's just,
No vandalism.
quality of life issues. And we can't stand for, turning a blind eye to all these little things that are happening, because eventually something big is gonna happen. If you see something, say something. I'm done.
Jason?
I'm good.
Residents in the room with us. So do you have anything that's on your mind?
It's like,
Gio, yes.
my high school has a lifeguard training program for anyone over the age of 16. If you want, I could recommend our lake and see if the teachers could directly like recommend kids to come here.
Please. Should we go now? Gio, thank you. That is fantastic. So, what high school?
Washington.
So Washingtonville High School has a lifeguard training program. Is that a class or it's like?
It's a June class, if you're over the age of 16.
Got it. Okay, so that's during school.
Yep, and you get your lifeguard certification.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
Open
Fantastic.
water certification needed.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, that's right. This happens to be open water. And of course you need.
Maybe
CPR.
one extra level of certification.
I think they do everything there, if I'm right.
All right, thank you for mentioning that.
If not, they have them reach out to us and we can make sure we got everything checked out.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I have a comment.
Yeah,
Uh,
so, your name?
Jim,
Jim.
yeah, can somebody tell the landscaper to be compliant with the noise ordinance laws? He comes and he starts his motors at 6 in the morning to 6:25 in the morning.
We will, that's noted and we will check that. Do
He
you,
runs the machine.
He's reserved one.
so can you, at least before we leave, just jot down possible dates or something, just so we have something concrete to come to him with and say,
He's done it twice so far that I.
okay.
I know
Okay.
there was somewhere early in their years, I think Wally addressed him.
Mhm. Yeah,
Usually when I see him to work, it's usually around 8:30, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Is when I drive by Reserve 1, I usually see him around there, so usually starting
Okay.
around 7 from what I've seen. Not to say that he hasn't started sooner than that.
It was that field 2 times. And then like Larry says, when you see something, say something. There was a post online of, I believe a non-resident at somebody's door. And it was immediately taken offline, so let's see something, say something, and then somebody.
well, we're gonna urge that, the something is with law enforcement. So the saying something would be, and as we've had, Mr. Bedetti with us plenty of times, who was retired law enforcement. Recently retired, and that's been what he's always said is, just call us, call the town police. They will call. I've made calls, sometimes it's nothing, sometimes, sometimes,
Calling about Reserve 2.
yeah,
I may call a number of times,
Yeah.
suspicious people, and they usually come, but sometimes they say, don't engage
Mhm.
the perpetrators.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, like I says, you keep ignoring this or putting it to the side, something big is gonna occur. You
Noted,
can't ignore it.
noted. Yeah, and I,
Love this.
yeah, and I wouldn't think the board or anyone else is ignoring it, and not that you're insinuating it at all, it's just something that, yeah, the proper channel would be to use law enforcement.
Law enforcement, and then again, if we touch base on what we started to talk about early in in our meeting today, if we can get together some sort of, we call it a community watch, if that's what we want to call it, just something to keep an eye on things, that would be very beneficial.
Okay, so
I know you're on board.
and we're currently 14 minutes over, but I still think we've done a lot. It's been a pretty useful meeting. Online, are there any comments, resident comments, questions? Good.
Comments, is there anyone that wants to go off mic?
I said, oh, what is that? Can we hear the residents?
They have to have a mic.
Oh, that's an old one. Okay. Somebody,
I asked if we could do it, there were, the
Oh.
microphone was a
you
little.
might have to unmute. Is that what's happening?
It doesn't look like anybody has any questions, no
Okay.
no hand raises, no unmuting.
And sorry, I'd be remiss. I did not go to the board members online, so that's my mistake. Kevin Boyle, online. Do you have anything?
Yeah, what's up?
Sorry to put you on the spot, Kevin.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
You're on.
You're on.
You're on.
Am I unmuted? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I have nothing to say. I'm good.
All right, doctor. Thank you. All right, moving to Diana Smith.
No, I don't have any comments.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Yep, that's a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. Stop recording. Okay.
Have a good night.
Good night now.